Michael Zinner, CEO and Executive Medical Director of Miami Cancer Institute. So the construction will be completed in October, November of this year. We'll get a certificate of occupancy then. We'll do then some shakedown and plan on seeing our first patients January 2, 2017. There are patients all over the system. So Baptist has 7 hospitals in the system that currently are receiving cancer care. And the purpose of MCI is to bring all of those together on one campus for their ambulatory care. I kind of have responsibility for the place. Oversight, right. Yeah. Both quality and we're recruiting and financial. And of course, you can't do that alone. So we are building a great team of people that will be in the organizational structure. Research is a really important part of what we're going to do. It's going to be one of the distinguishing characteristics of MCI from other community settings. So there's a new concept in cancer care. Let me back up and say 85% of cancer care in this country is delivered in community hospitals, not teaching hospitals, not big centers, but mostly in community hospitals. What we're developing is kind of a new concept of a hybrid cancer center, great community hospital that links to either a teaching hospital or an established research cancer institute. And for us, that hybrid's going to be between Miami Cancer Institute, and Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York. So we will be Memorial Sloan Kettering in Florida.
Will patients be able to go between this institute and Sloan Kettering in New York and the reverse?
Yes.
They will.
We plan on instituting their standards, instituting, more importantly, their clinical trials. So when patients are initially treated, they get pretty standard therapy around the country, and we're going to use Memorial's standard therapies. But when they fail or have trouble with their standard therapy, then they need to go on clinical trials. Up until now, there were none in this community other than those associated with the university. We're now going to have those clinical trials at MCI. So there are a number of wonderful physicians that have been at Baptist for decades, that have been in multiple different sites, and we're bringing them all on board in a single site. In addition to that, we've got recruits lined up from all over the country, highly specialized recruits in highly specialized areas that will bring expertise that we perhaps currently don't have in some of our areas. Baptist is building the facility, Baptist system is building the facility, and obviously it'll be a combination of existing patient revenues, insurance, government sponsors, all the traditional things that support an institute. Research, on the other hand, is not supported by clinical dollars. Research is different. Research often requires outside dollars like philanthropy or sometimes commercial sponsorship, sometimes clinical trials sponsored by the National Cancer Institute. Those are different dollars pooled than the, if you will, the clinical dollars that come in from insurance. We anticipate that Florida is known to be a winter destination for many people in the Northeast. We understand that, and in fact, that's part of the design, part of the care that we'll be able to offer. So that if you lived in New York and you begin your care there, you begin your chemotherapy there, but you have a Florida residence and you want to live in Florida during the 6 months of the winter, that we'll have that opportunity to provide that care right here at MCI. Well, I wasn't around for the original idea. I began working with Baptist System about 3 years ago, as they were developing the concept of what MCI would look like. So I wasn't at the board level, I wasn't at the meeting, but I think, if from what I understand, the board and the leadership thought that it would be an important part of the Miami healthcare landscape to have a destination cancer center and have it on the campus of Baptist Hospital. It is our goal, my goal, to put us in the same league as those hospitals. I've had experience now for a very long time working in those settings.
Okay.
I understand what goes into that. The only thing that will be different about what we're going to do and what Dana-Farber does, for example, or Memorial Sloan Kettering does, or MD Anderson does, is we will not do basic science research. We will do clinical trials and clinical research, but we will not be doing the basic science research. So our knowledge generation and research will come from clinical trials, genomics, proton therapy, all kinds of new treatments as they apply to the cancer patient. But proton therapy is the newest, most highly sophisticated form of radiation therapy.
Okay.
Now, the difference between proton radiation therapy and the traditional kinds of radiation therapy, the traditional kinds of radiation therapy take beams of radiation and aim it at a target, a tumor, but the radiation passes through, so it potentially destroys tissue on both sides of the tumor in addition to the tumor. Proton therapy is very specific. It's like a laser beam on the tumor that you paint the tumor with that laser beam, and it only destroys that tissue. And the reason it's so useful is because it doesn't destroy everything else around it. There are about 15 in this country.
Okay.
It will be one of the 15. We will have the only proton therapy unit south of Jacksonville and north of Antarctica, which means Latin America is a big part of our prospective opportunity for treatment. We achieve to be, in a few years, not going to happen right away, but in a few years, we expect to be in that named group of destination cancer centers. So one of the things that I try to tell mostly my lay audiences is that cure is probably not the right word.
Okay.
The word is, well, I use another example. If you have diabetes, I cannot cure you of diabetes, but with appropriate treatment, like insulin, I can have you live for almost ever. So now apply that to cancer therapy. Cancer, once you have cancer, and that diagnosis is going to stick with you the rest of your life. But if we use appropriate treatment, you can live therapy after therapy as we learn more about the disease, as we learn more about cancer. And one of the things we have learned in the last decade is that cancer is not a single disease. Breast cancer, for example, is not a single disease. It's probably 20 diseases, maybe even more, because each one of those 20 can get a different form of therapy as we learn more about the underlying genetics of what the tumor is.